What's up? What's up, live stream people? Casey's always in here early. Casey, how do you work at fucking YouTube or something? I don't know. What's up? What's up? What's up, fuckers? All right, so I wanted to do a live stream because of the I wanted to acknowledge Trump's monument speech, you know. So he just had a yeah. By the way, happy Independence Day. Of course, you're not independent, so it's kind of like you know, calling the United States the United States. You're not united. You're very far from united, and you don't have independence. So I guess it's more of like a lamenting type of holiday. The fucking the Trump poop squad, the Trump speech on the monuments. I wanted to address that. Let me get my fucking black bean can here. So the Trump monument speech, right? I wanted to kind of address this. I'm hoping that the video title pulls in people that have no idea, you know, anything about what's going on, so I can kind of confront this and maybe plant some new seeds. That's my thought. I just watched the Trump video. It made me it motivates me to want to say something because of how terrible and how deceitful what is going on right now. How deceitful it is. It's very sad. It's very sad that people in the world are so entirely motivated and compelled by power and you know, raw power to motivate them to pervade deceit to the masses. There's something very antithetical about it, you know, in terms of creation, in terms of the choice, right? Like not in terms of its position on the like relative spectral position between good and evil, but in terms of people's choice, that people choose, like a serial killer. Let's take like a Jeffrey Dahmer, right? Like Jeffrey Dahmer, although, you know, terrifyingly heinous, or like John Wayne Gacy, although terrifyingly heinous, and you know, it's a horrifying thing to even think about or to try to comprehend shit like that. But it's obvious that that person is driven by their own like manifestation of motive, right? That's internal. It's like internalized in them, and they're, you know, if you're talking about like Dahmer, for example, you're talking about something that's like compelled to fucking like eat people and rape people and stuff, and it's like you know, you really get the impression that he doesn't have much choice in terms of you know, to like, you know, all those things that he's doing are pretty you know, they should like really put people off in terms of just like the concept makes people shudder. Like thinking about the things that they did makes people shudder. But this person is like driven to it impulsively, compulsively, to the point where it's like they feel like they can't stop. You know what I mean? Like they have no restraint. And so in this regard, their antithetical position towards humanity is almost like natural. Like it's like a natural manifestation. They're just on the opposite end of the spectrum, right? And it's almost harder to blame them than it is for people that are willingly, you know, in their capacity of intellect and in their capacity of interface with humanity, like I'm talking politicians here, or corrupt people that choose to pervade deceit and to fool the world and to crush their hearts. That is like a very, in my opinion, it's a little further down that spectrum, in my opinion. especially when it's hidden. Like if the general public can't detect it because they just don't have the ability to detect it, it makes it somehow more cruel, right? Especially its mass effect, like how many people it affects. So the situation with Trump, with the monuments and shit, obviously, if you don't you didn't watch any of the streams or understand, my position vaguely in terms of, what kind of person I am and what the things that I recognize and believe in, the way that I look at the world, then you can watch this with what I'm about to say, and you could be like, well, he's, like anti-American or something like that. So let me explain that first. So, if you're going to make statues of people, then, and if you do make statues of people, and if they're considered historical figures in a society, then for better or worse, regardless of what you think about the statues, obviously they have a like a historical significance in terms of the effect on society. Necessarily because they were, you don't have any fucking statues made about you, right? But other people feel compelled by figures to like make statues and shit of them, or paintings or whatever, right? So obviously there's, whether or not you agree with it, there are people that, feel it important enough to spend the time and energy to do so. And if they're doing that, if they're annotating and making a benchmark in history, if they choose to do that, then, then by the logical reason that they would tear down the statues, which would be that they think that it's, in the case of these current monuments being pulled down, the Foot Clan is looking at it like, in the public narrative, they're looking at it like the statues are reminders of racism and the support of racism, institutional racism, and so they need to be pulled down so that it's a symbol of that being destroyed, right? And they're really not looking at it from the angle of we're destroying history, but that is what they're doing. If the people doing this, if the Marxists doing this were actually concerned, like if their driving goal was to stop racism, then they would leave the fucking statues up. And the reason being is that because when you destroy history of something that you don't agree with, then it's forgotten and it gets erased over, right? Now, what that means is that it illuminates the point that the actual drive for why the statues are getting pulled down has nothing at all to do with racism or like destroying that. It has to do with defacing icons that are associated with Edom, with the Western society. It has to do with that. And the Marxists don't acknowledge the actual causation or people that are involved with slavery as an industry and how they get from, the continent of Africa to here, and the financial networks that fueled that entire process, which is far older than the United States, and had regions of the network that were completely out of the purview of anyone that would have been a colonist. Like I'm talking like France, Britain, Spain, all of them. There are elements of the slave trade that are very large historically that necessarily and logically have nothing at all to do, like can't have anything to do with the HRE, Holy Roman Empire, or Spain or Britain or France. And so necessarily because those facts, I'm talking about like specifically the Saharan slave trade, logically and necessarily they can't, if you have the largest part of the slave trade that's bigger than the part that is getting press coverage, has zero to do with these nations, then that's like the bigger part, right? It's the bigger part of the body of consideration that we're talking about here with like slavery as a financial system. And so if it's a bigger part and it's not run by them, then, obviously it's someone else that's running it. And I'll just leave it at that. You can figure it out if you don't know what I'm talking about. in terms of the statues in Trump, it's probably one of the most direct, in your face examples of a like a control paradigm mechanic being displayed to the masses. And the fact that people are so stupid that they can't see this is almost, I mean, it's almost bewildering. It kind of staggers the imagination, because if you fucking idiots can't see what's going on here, then like you have no hope. Like how the fuck do you think you're ever gonna pull yourself out of your actual enslavement and be free in the first place? To actualize the concepts in the Declaration of Independence or Independence Day as a broad state of mind. How would you ever hope to even actualize that when you don't even know what the fuck is going on, and you can't even detect it? Like you don't pack the tools. You've given away all your tools to logically deduce and analyze any kind of situation, and you're just like eating directly from the hand of the enemy, of your enemy that's destroying your country. Now Trump is obviously, this is the aspect, this is kind of a mean video, this is kind of a cruel video, but I hope that you don't take it that way, because on the deeper level, because you people need to fucking wake up. And the reason that you need to wake up is because you're gonna get your fucking asses handed to you, and you don't stand a fucking chance. And you think, like all the strength in the world is not going to help you. The number of people and the weapons, all that, it can be turned against you because you're so dumb that you don't even know which way the wind blows. And so my ultimate purpose in this is to try to shake you a little bit, even if you're pissed off, to try to just wake you up so that you can fucking rationalize reality and identify actual threats, so that you can protect yourself and your family, because I don't want you to die, and I don't want you to get wiped off the earth. I don't want your fucking generations to be erased from history and from memory to where you don't have a name and don't have a place in the world. And that's why I'm taking the time to do this. And there's no way, you guys are so fucking, and I'm not talking about my normal viewership, I'm talking about anybody that would stumble upon this video. You guys are so fucking stubborn in your acceptance of slavery, that your own enslavement, your own doom, that you would fucking sooner attack the person that would try to come and take off your chains, rather than fucking realize that you're wearing chains, then be like, oh shit, let's get these motherfuckers off. You guys would spend more energy trying to fucking shank the guy who's trying to get you out of your chains than you would trying to help other people that are in your same predicament. That's here, then we're there. So obviously Trump is fucking clearly reciprocating the dialectic here. Like all the monuments get pulled down, and then you have the conservative position of like the opposite of whatever that is, right? So like whatever the antithesis is, antithesis is, you're the synthesis. So like the conservatives, they're the synthesis, right? The conservatives are the actual change that takes place. So like your reaction in being upset to the monuments getting pulled down is the desired synthesis. And Trump is the facilitator of the synthesis. So Trump is actually, completely owned by world government and the enemies who are the people that are destroying your country and creating Marxism. And he's up there with the biggest fucking banner for representing the United States, so he can swallow you dumbasses up and put you into his order, so that you can be fucking guided like the Pied Piper into your own destruction. And this is clearly and obviously what's going on, and has been the entire fucking time. And so it staggers the imagination, in that people can't recognize this. But I guess that's our predicament and our handicap as humans. He's obviously up there guarding Mount Rushmore so that he can do it, right? Like it's completely fucking absurd that a monument with faces of presidents of the United States would be controversial. Obviously, right? Like there is no rational explanation for this at all, except for to make something out of fucking thin air to get everybody all hot and bothered. And then Trump is there to be the synthesis reaction to that antithesis, right? So the thesis is The thesis is that you have a fucking country that you made that's already established, and you made some fucking monuments about your presidents. Pretty normal shit. Pretty regular ass, any day of the week shit that makes fucking logical sense. Now you have a bad shit antithesis, which is, fucking Marx just come out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden, through the media, it's synthesized that like this thing is way bigger than it actually is. And that they're like, just foaming at the mouth to fucking tear down all your logical shit. And so the synthesis is you get upset about that and you start to look at it over time as like they just keep getting away with it. How do they keep getting away with it? And you build up steam, right? Until you reach the conclusion, which we'll go into. Obviously the Marxists, the fucking socialists, they came out of fucking nowhere, relatively, right? Like there are no mass groups of people in all the major cities around the world in the 1980s and 1990s like trying to fucking destroy the United States. The people that are out there doing that stuff are obviously local people to the area, and they're being guided and funded by seriously fucking organized organizations of people that are operating on their own understanding of what's going on, which is separate from the public understanding. And they're able to coordinate it and get the shit to pop off at the same time in multiple states. The people in the United States are so fucking impotent and lazy and disassociated from their like, more like cattle. There's no fucking way. The probability of people in the United States coming together and doing multiple states simultaneously, like especially the people that are involved in like the protests and shit. You're talking about Antifa. It's obviously coordinated, but there's obviously a shitload of money flowing through it, right? We're not talking about, fucking like drug money or fucking like through private industry. That's what we're talking about. That's how you get the fuel for this thing. It has to be huge. And that should reveal something else that's a logical extension, which is that in the United States, because of your no ability to resist, right? So like all they have to do is pour some fucking money, a handful of catfish, get food, and it's just if you threw enough money out there, you could get people going around like eating fucking literal shit sandwiches, going around like trying to find poo and eat it because if they were going to get paid enough for it. That's how irrational this whole thing is. So people are doing things that are not beneficial to anyone, and then they have a very weak, illogical public narrative of why it's being done, which is the cover story, which would be like the false history of slavery and racism that's, purveyed against the population, which is not accurate at all. But that's the cover story. But the reality is they're just throwing some money out there like chum, and then you fucking idiots are chomping at the bit to get it, and you'll fucking attack each other to get it. And that's because it reveals over any kind of basis of moral or ethic for society. And so in society, most people are atheist, I would say, or agnostic, but agnostic in a nihilistic sense, not in a like intellectual sense. Most people are atheists in that they claim to, reflect upon the world. Is basically just a parallel code of like a Abrahamic religion that is that they just convey because it's especially in terms of people that are enslaved by money have a completely corroded and non-existent foundational ethic system, and it's the perceived utility of acknowledging such an ethic system. And when it goes away, like when they can detect the social opportunity for it to go away for personal gain in any kind of scenario, they fucking go buck wild, which is why you're getting this shit now. Like you may have a bunch of people involved in Black Lives Matter and Antifa that have a range of, proposed ethical beliefs. But as soon as they get the chance to like fucking wreak some fucking chaos, they're just gonna fucking wrap it into the false public narrative of like, yeah, because of racism and fucking slavery. And then they're gonna and then he could just go into then they would just go into using it as an excuse to fucking destroy your country, right? in the aggregate, right? Like they don't see it like that. They see it like we're burning down a CVS, we're burning down a Foot Locker, or we're fucking raiding it. We're raiding a fucking Dolce & Gabbana store to fucking get free shit. Because that's their personal need, right? Like that's their personal want. I shouldn't use the word need. Obviously, no one at all needs Dolce & Gabbana, but they're aligning their own vices with the world government saying, "Okay, boys, leash is off. Go ahead, have some fun," and they're aligning that under the false narrative of some kind of like higher ethic, which is just a catch-all bullshit excuse. They're aligning it with their vices and taking advantage of it. And so the actual reason this is happening is because the fucking world government wants to destroy your fucking United States and take the motherfucker over. And they're willing to accept anybody under any pretense or any belief that will accomplish that no matter what. The people that are on the ground destroying shit in Antifa and pulling down monuments, they're the fucking direct people that operate and are stimulated by direct instruction from world government. So when the MSM and the academia and the industry says, we can do better, this is not right, and then they basically give a green light to do this shit, they are the ones that are putting the shit out there. The people down on the ground are just fulfilling their personal vices. But the aggregate in game is that your country gets destroyed. The people on the ground doing it are directly influenced by the order that's given out, and they're so dumb that they can't even see it. They can't. A person that's on the ground rioting in Antifa and BLM, generally, not all the time, generally, I'm sure you have some like just watch the forest burn people in there, but they generally have no idea or suspicion of how strange it is that the entire media, academia, alt media, and fucking like everybody, financial institutions, industrial institutions, all start talking about the same topic all at once, like it's a fucking control paradigm directive. Because that's exactly what the fuck it is. But they have no awareness of this. But the factor of this that relates into Trump is that this is a two-sided coin. You have the antithesis, which is the challenge to your old system, which is like your Antifa, BLM rioters and shit. And then you have you dumbass Trump supporters that are in reaction to it. You guys are the secondary step. You're the reaction. Now you are the nuts and bolts of the nation. You are the people that hold shit together. You're the people that keep the lights on. You're the people that fucking run the water. You're the people that staff the fucking military and the police. You're the trigger pullers. When the United States needs somebody killed, you're the one that fucking executes it. You're the one that moves and makes shit happen, right? You are the actual purpose of all of this BLM shit, right? Trump is your icon, your Pied Piper, to guide you and consolidate the message so that you know when to jump and when to fucking hold still and wait. Right now you're in the hold still and wait phase, right? But as this shit becomes more destabilized, the reason that you're feeling pissed off and why it feels like nobody's doing anything about this stuff is because if they did something about it right now, it would be at a less severe degree than what it would look like in a year from now or 6 months from now, depending on how bad things get. So they don't want to do anything right now because they need to let the animosity build up and your frustration and sense of hopelessness build up so that then when they're like, okay, they had their fun, now it's time to take the gloves off, so that you fucking idiots go out there and fucking shoot all these people, in aggregate, like under the legal authority of law. When this shit gets to the point where they come together and say this is now officially it's already a threat against the United States. It was fucking 20 years ago, but you follow directives just like they do. It's just secondary. And they didn't say that it was time yet because they don't want you to have like a fucking discourse or talk about it or have any kind of ability to change anything non-violently. They've got to build it up to the point where your fucking glass breaks and fucking spills out. And then you guys view the situation as like, Well, they pushed it, they pushed it, they pushed it, and now it's time to start shooting people. And that's where they're fucking taking you to. And Trump is about as directly tied into world government as a person can get in the modern era. This guy is so tied in to world government. He practically has, I mean, he's practically on an umbilical cord to attached to world government. This is the biggest implant, the biggest Trojan horse, the biggest fucking Queen Esther that has been in the United States in the modern era. And you guys are fucking idiots for not seeing it. If you don't see it, you know, I mean, I feel bad because of the amount of suffering that you're going to have to go through and the amount of suffering that you're going to cause on humanity and other people that are going to be stuck in the middle of this. But you guys are ultimately, like, I'm not saying that you're wrong, right? Like, I'm not saying that the things that you're upset about are logical to be upset about, right? But they were logical before any of this shit started happening. Like, they were logical back, you know, for the last 100 years, people should have been upset about shit. And they just let it go. By now, they've let it go so far. Everything is so fucked systematically and so corroded at its foundation that you don't have anything to defend anymore. They've taken the whole motherfucker over already, you know? And so by you refusing to accept this and acknowledging it, by you refusing to acknowledge it, you're investing all of your eggs into the basket of world government. This thing is already under control. They already have the cordons on. They're drawing them in. And then what's going on right now is that you're getting corralled into being the fucking foot soldiers and defenders of world government. Because BLM is not going to be able to fucking, you know, map out target reference points on a fucking overlay on a map for fucking artillery. BLM is not going to be able to fucking do wind dope for, you know, accurately shooting rifles to engage point targets. BLM is not going to be able to operate fucking turbine engine M1s or fucking Apache aircraft or fucking, you know, like A-10 aircraft or fucking naval vessels or the fucking banking system. Like, BLM and Antifa cannot do this. It's not the type of people that these are. You are the people that are going to do that, right? But the problem is that you have this little thing called the Constitution. And that's a big thorn in the side because they have to basically make up lies for why they're fucking stomping on it over and over and over again. And they're pretty good at it, apparently, because you guys keep eating it up and you have no idea. But the reason that Trump is the Pied Piper center point of all this is because that's how cleanly and effectively they've run this entire destabilization operation. This entire coup of the United States is so clean, and they have such thorough and saturated corruption through everything via finance that, like, the only loud voice is Trump, who's directly under the thumb, permanently fucking connected to world government and does whatever the fuck they want. And there's nobody else. Anybody else that's actually organic that would resist it has no fucking money, has no fucking airtime, is actively suppressed on social media. And the only other people that are allowed to say shit are people that are either the same way, so they're so small nobody even gives a fuck, because you're totally saturated with information, have no idea how to navigate information and decide what makes sense and what's not. So the actual independent people are completely drowned out. And you have a bunch of fucking alt media and MSM that are like pundits of the fucking control paradigm. And they just parrot whatever the fucking mainstream narrative to talk about, whether you're on the right or the left, they just parrot it. They reinforce it. They create a false consensus to make you think that this is what everybody's thinking about and what I should think about. All the while, the fucking Constitution is being rolled up like a piece of toilet paper to wipe illegal aliens' asses or whatever. Something fucking very disparaging. Some kind of analogy that's extremely disparaging. Your Constitution is being used as a splooge rag right in front of your faces, and you're being told that like, we're just trying to preserve it, you know? Like, they're not trying to preserve it. They're going to fucking take it away from you by force. And you're going to fucking help it, and you're going to guard them. And that's why Trump's there, because he's the fucking leader of it by selection, not because he's a leader, but because he's been selected and curated to become the leader for a long fucking time. Your solution will not come from the government. Your solution will not come from the MSM. Your solution will not come from the media. Your solution will not come from fucking financial houses. Your solution will not come from academic philosophers or anything like that. Your solution is going to come from you connecting with your creator and fucking internalizing your motivation and your sight of truth and becoming strong. Becoming mentally strong, and to understand that what's not good for your family is not good for your family. And if it's not good for your family, it's not good for your nation, because the nation ultimately has nothing to do at all with money. When we started this nation, we had no fucking money. Literally had no money at all. It was a fucking break off from the world system, and it had nothing. And they had a bunch of experimental shit that they went to originally in the early colonies that was disastrous and like resulted in deaths and shit prior to the fucking founding of the Constitution. And there are issues with the way that the country was founded in terms of it not being secure enough and not being redundant enough, even though the law is very redundant. Like the Constitution is extremely redundant. It's a very intelligent document. There are issues with it necessarily because it didn't fucking work and they got in here anyway. And they flipped the fucking tables on you anyway, right? So necessarily there's something that did not work. What didn't work was you guys, because the element of the Constitution that is the most important is the people. And that's the entire country. The entire purpose of the United States and what it is for the people. It's for people to try to live free. But the mechanics by which the Constitution and the founding of the United States were started were basically like thoughtful parallels of what already existed, like the nation state model that already existed. And the nation state model that already existed was created and motivated by the economic transition from the period of absolutism into emancipating finance from kingdoms and making a private entity, right? Like a private power that has no nationhood is purely economic driven. And that is where the construction of the nation state is really defined, is there. And the Constitution and the colonies were basically like people rationalizing, human beings rationalizing like, fuck, we are being, really abused here and we need to fucking break off. And when they did it, they didn't really have much to work with other than what already existed that they could draw from. And they didn't quite go radical enough in terms of like making people independent. And that was the problem with the Constitution. Not its ideas, not its effort to make people free. That is a noble and timeless effort that is always the right thing to do. It's always right. But the old system that they carried over, that is what is wrong, and that's what gave them the foot in the door. Primarily economics. But this whole thing with Trump is very sad because of its irony, because all these people that are investing so much into the concept of Trump, the further that Trump goes, the further that you go away from doing anything yourself, and the more invested you become in a fucking, it's a fucking trap. Trump is a trap, period. And you're all going to find that out. The reason that Pompeo said that Trump is a modern day Queen Esther is because it's probably the most appropriate analogy that you could use to describe the situation. Now, most Christians typically don't understand the story of Queen Esther, but to break it down, what that means is that Trump does not represent the United States and that he's pretending to. That's what it means. That's exactly what it means. And that's exactly what Pompeo is invoking when he's describing what's going on. And the reason why is because there is a general consensus among Jews that the United States is Edom and needs to be destroyed. Okay, which is very it is true in some ways, but in the way that is true is only the element that is like taken over the fucking United States and is corrupt, or the bad elements that were here in its origin. It's not in the concept of people, like the entire way, like for the Jews, for the Messianic Jews, you know how you're gonna get fucking disarmament of the nations. You're gonna get disarmament of the nations when you have enough time of where people find God and understand the construction of creation so well and are so rewarded by it that it occupies all their time, and they put down their guns and they forget about them slowly over time as they spend their time focusing on something else more and more and more until the world forgets about killing each other. That is how you're going to get disarmament by God. You're not going to get disarmament by fucking going and shooting people or by like waging these little fake ass synthetic conflicts and destabilization ops. It's not going to happen, and you're not even permitted to. And so, I guess we all just need to suffer a little bit for you to figure it out, and that's what's coming. The bad elements that have been here since the origin are people that came into the colonies and co-opted the international financial system to integrate it into the United States through trade to poison to invariably poison the independent economic system that the United States set up in error to emulate the one that they already knew. And by, focusing on monetary gain and focusing on money as like a resource of exchange, they invite in the poison that got us here. They invited it in. It was inevitable. It was going to happen anyway because when you use money, it's inevitable. You can't escape what comes. But they made it come. They were like the conduits of allowing that to come, and it's just a short-sighted perspective of it's a rational perspective in terms of people. Like if you're in a system that uses money, then it's like you need money to take care of your family and shit. And so it's rational in that regard. It's irrational in the long game in the philosophical sense because they don't understand. They don't understand what's really going on here. And if they did, if the people who founded the United States could understand that by introducing the conduit of international finance, you were someday going to get fucking like an entire parallel government created that is on the side of fucking the United States, and that you have like elements in here doing like Marxist destabilization and communism upon the population, to where you have, you literally have fucking like urbanite fucking yuppies walking around like kissing black people's shoes because they're simply for their fucking racial composition, because they're black. Most of the fucking quote unquote white people in the United States don't know their family history past like fucking 4 generations anyway, because it's been fucking completely destroyed and wiped away. You have no idea. Most people that are of European origin have a very short fucking memory in terms of like their history. And that's by design, because they're fucking erasing it, just like they're pulling down your fucking monuments and shit. Well, you're going to have an even fucking shorter one. That's probably going to be 2 generations here in a little bit, because your children are all socialized. Your women are all socialized. Your women are basically told who they should aspire to have sex with. Your family unit is destroyed. They're trying to get you to they're basically trying to have a super state narrative of who you should fucking reproduce with by dictation, by suggesting it through media and through the government. And the government supports it. Your families no longer have any kind of influence on your next generation. They've socialized your kids so that they're separated, and their influence comes from mass society, which obviously is world government. It's who's running shit. Obviously, this is the case. You know what I mean? So this is like, I don't know where we come to the point where you can take accountability for what is actually going on around you and give it the proper attribution to like why it's happening and who did it and why. Like why it's happening, like the mechanical attributes of it, like how is this even happening? Like it's completely batshit that you could have BLM running around a coordinated operation to fucking like destabilize shit and make the fucking US government, basically like fucking wobble its knees. It's totally illogical how you could even get there. So it's like it necessitates the question of like, how is this even possible? And the only reason why is because the fucking U.S. government that is supposed to, represent you doesn't represent you anymore at all. They represent money. That's their only fucking blood. They're not tied into the constituency anymore. They're not accountable to the constituency, and they follow money. Well, the people that run money are the same people that are running fucking BLM. And that's why the people that run government can tell the government to stand out of the way and let the shit go. You know what I mean? Because your government doesn't represent you anymore. And this whole thing of like this little resistance facade that like Trump is putting up, he's basically like the center point of it and the fucking idol of it. And that's because he's going to fucking swallow all you up. And in the story of fucking Queen Esther, that ends up with a bunch of people getting hanged. The people getting hanged in this analogy would be you dumbasses that are supporting Trump. So I hope that you understand that. At some point, it becomes difficult to continue to like fight for you because you're kind of like your own worst enemy. You're not only do you guard the system as it is and prevent it from any type of catharsis, along with your counterpart, the fucking communist, socialist, Marxists. You're like the B to their A. Not only do you guard it, but you fucking refuse to acknowledge history. You refuse to acknowledge. I'm not talking about slavery. I'm talking about how your fucking constitution is like, basically. I mean, your modern constitution today. Today is Independence Day. The Declaration of Independence is an absolute antithesis to what your modern day society is. Absolutely. It's like a fucking mirrored opposite. It is a mirrored opposite. The people who founded this country would have fucking second guesses about like how they set up the government if they could have a little fucking time portal to take a look at what's going on today. The right thing to do, obviously, is to fucking take a hold of your family and fucking guard them, because you basically have a beast coming after them and it's swallowing up left and right. It's swallowing them up and they don't stand a fucking chance, and the world doesn't have any heroes, but you can be a hero if you want to be. But you need to stop listening to the people that you're listening to. You need to stop taking from the hand that feeds. You need to fucking provide for yourself. That's the only real wealth that you really have. It's given to you by God. You plant a tree, it's going to grow on its own. You're going to turn about 1 ounce of material into fucking 10,000 pounds of material. And the only fucking factor in between is water and time and some okay dirt. That's it. God is going to do all the work for you if you'll fucking recognize that everything that you need is already here. And you're just being tricked into fucking playing it wrong and giving away all of your labor and energy and your sweat and your future generations. You're just handing it off to fucking jackals. That's what you're doing by participating and accepting the current system. You need to fucking get back, take a step back. You need to fucking start using your money that you have now while you still have a little bit of time to stop buying fucking cars, stop buying fucking Dish Network TV, cancel your subscription to black.com, and fucking use that money to fucking get your own water, produce some of your own power, knock out some of your power consumption so you're not using so much, grow your own food, and fucking, while you're doing it, make a little bit extra for your neighbor, Make a little bit extra for fucking the people that unfortunately don't have as much as you and aren't going to have the opportunity to do that. Make a little bit extra. Make a little bit extra in the corner of the field to give away to the poor and the hungry. Collect a little bit of extra water for the fucking traveler that's thirsty and dying of thirst. That doesn't have a drink. All right? And fucking guard your children, because they're being fucking taken away and you don't have the right to give them away. Even though that's what you're doing, you don't have the right to do it. Learn to make soap. There you go. I agree. Learn to make your fucking soap. Learn to make everything. And start now, because it takes forever. We already learned all this shit. It's been fucking stolen away from us, and you cash it out for fucking lotto tickets and scratchers tickets and shit. And fucking Ford trucks that aren't made in the United States. That's what you've changed it out for. You got to relearn everything and pass it on to your future generations. And hold it fucking tight. And if you guys do this en masse enough, Now you don't have a backstop because you're not making any fucking forests. It's not like you have a backstop, so it's probably gonna be pretty ugly. But you know, it's not about. This isn't like a prepping thing. This isn't this isn't anything like that. This is just the way that you're supposed to fucking live anyway. This is the way that you live to be free. So start actualizing your freedom and start doing it in actuality with your acts. If you're tied in this system right now, use the money that you got in a very short, compressed timeline. Make a plan for like fucking 6 months or 1 year to fucking buy actual things that you can keep and start getting hands-on experience so you understand the systems that you're using, that you're relying on. Because if you're not independent in the things that you need to survive and the things that you provide for your family, then you have no independence. And if you have no independence, then what the fuck is the point of celebrating Independence Day? All right, you guys have a good day. I love you.